Hello and welcome to SAP UI5 demos. In my previous demo, I showed you how to use data binding, and in this demo, we're going to talk about oData. Before we get into oData, there was a small mistake that I did in demo 2, which talked about routing. And if you open Eclipse and get into index.html, we are using the router over here, which is all correct. But in this case, we don't need this method. What this method was doing, it is going to load the default content. But now that our router is taking care of loading the default content, we can just remove this and that will still work. So earlier it was loading the view twice, which we don't want. Okay, and so now let's move into oData. Uh, Before we start into oData, you need to understand the cross-origin concept, because not every time you will be requesting data from your own server. Uh, I'm using a local machine and I don't have R3 installed in my system. So I'm going to give this demo from a third-party service which gives me oData, and I'm going to display it here. Now, why will the third-party service help me to get the data and run over here? So let's say that I'm requesting something from localhost, which is my server, and I'm requesting to another domain. Now, this domain might reject this request and it might not give back the data because of security policies and stuff. But there are other kind of domains which can give you the data and you can work with that data. So let's see that what happens exactly, that it rejects the data, or it rejects the request, or sometimes it gives back the response. To do that, I've created a small script on my Ajaxtown domain, and this is JSON service. And if you refresh this and click on data.php and study the headers, this is the response that we are getting from this particular site. And it says access control allow origin star, which means that you can request this data from a different server because there is no restriction. This is kind of a wildcard. To check this out, we can write a small script here, which is $.ajax. This is a jQuery function, and you pass the URL over here, and our data type is going to be JSON, and on success we need our response here, and we are going to echo out the response. Right now the URL is this. Let's run this, and it gives me all the data. But there are scenarios where it might not allow you. So let's say this is one of the scenario. And now if you refresh this page and get into data.php, you see access control allow origin is ajaxtown.com, which means that if you want to get this data, your server should be placed inside, your file should be placed inside ajaxtown.com, because it is going to send you the response only if the request is coming from this domain. So in this case, if we try to run this, it is going to throw an error which says cross origin request blocked, because it is expecting the request only from this server, right? So that's all about it. And let's get into this service, which is a service of Northwind, and I'm triggering the employees table, and it gives me all the information in JSON format. Now this is actually a oData service, but we are just requesting the format to be in JSON. Correct. Now if you're wondering how did I get to know about this employees, then you can get into this URL and you can write metadata, and it is going to show you a bunch of options. And here you can see there is a customer table, there is an employee table, but if you want to access the employee table, then you need to give employees. Similarly, for the customer table, it is going to be customers, and these are all the fields that this table contain. So let's get into any table. Let's get into customers table, and Instead of employees, we place customers. We request the data in JSON format, and it gives me all the customers. So we are going to display this data into our SAP UI5 application inside a table. To do that, let's copy this URL and keep it ready. Get into Eclipse, get into a controller first, and delete everything, whatever you see here. All right. I didn't delete the last line because anyways we have to set the model globally. So let's go ahead and create our model first. Var oModel is equal to new sap.ui.model.json.json model, and now we are going to request the server $.ajax, and we are going to use this URL, which is this, and we are going to give data type as JSON, and when the request is success, send me the response over here, and we are going to print the response. And for the time being, we are going to comment this out. So let's see what response this particular script gives us. So I'll just refresh this page. And it's giving me the data over here, and the data is inside a keyword which is value. So we need to pass this key so that we get the relevant data. To do that, instead of writing response, we need the value of this response. Now if you refresh this page, we are getting all the values, and if you click on one of the object, it correctly gives me all the information. So in this demo, we are just going to show our contact name, and we are going to show the contact title. That will be all. So now we know response.value has our data. So we are going to write var data is equal to response.value, and oModel dot set data, and it is going to set this data, and after that we are going to pass this model, which is oModel, into our code so that it becomes globally available. Now let's move into page 1.view, and we are going to delete everything from here, and we need to create a table. So var oTable is equal to new sap.ui.table.table. Now this is a new library, sap.ui.table. So make sure that you include this over here, which is a part of your UI libraries. So once we have written the table, we are creating the structure over here. So our table ID is going to be my table, and then we are going to have visible row count. We're going to keep it as 5, and we are going to say if this is editable. It's not editable. So that's the basic structure. Now we are going to add columns into it. So to add the column, oTable dot add column, and inside this we are going to add sap.ui.table.column, and this is going to accept an object. So we are going to pass what is the column name. In this case, it is going to be new sap.ui.columns.label, and we are going to pass the text over here, which is going to be contact name and contact title. So this is going to be contact name, and the next one is going to be contact title. So that's our label. We want this to be visible, and the data is going to come from a template which we are going to create now. O control. So we go here and create var O control is equal to new sap.ui.commons. This is going to be a text view, and inside this we are going to bind this parameter. We are going to bind this with our UI element. So we write text, and the way to bind is like this. Sorry, contact name. So that's how we bind, and new text view. Forgot the parenthesis, so that's correct now. Um, Now we are going to create another column, and this is going to be our contact title. So we copy that. This is going to be contact title, and we're going to write contact title. So now we have created two columns, and now we are going to bind the rows so that it gets us all the data inside the table. To do that, we just write oTable dot bind rows, and we are going to bind from the root table. Now, why I put slash here? Because we are actually getting all the relevant data over here, and earlier we used value, response.value. So if I don't give value over here, then I need to type, this is going to be the root from where we are getting the data. So I'm not typing the value over here, but we are just going to write value over here. So get the data from the root, and then we are going to return this table. Right. So let's go ahead and refresh this page. And you see we have all our data inside our table, and this is coming from the external service that we are using, which is the Northwind service, and here it is. Right. I hope you have understood everything. If there is something that I can explain better, please drop me a comment. Thanks for watching.